The Nintendo Switch 2 has the perfect name and launch title in Mario Kart 9. But what about The Legend of Zelda, which was key to both the launch of the Wii and the Switch? Well, there's just so much Zelda already confirmed, leaked and likely in development. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Let's briefly start with what was fully confirmed on Nintendo's website after the first look trailer. Namely, which Switch Zelda games with their cartridges and digital files will be backwards compatible on the Nintendo Switch 2, where we find Echoes of Wisdom, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. So the 3 brand new Zelda games on the system, and though not featured, most likely also the remaster, so Skyward Sword HD and the remake Link's Awakening. The reason to believe so in the case of Skyward Sword is that the motion control Nintendo Switch Sports is in that picture of supported titles. So yes, all the Switch Zeldas are on the Switch too. But wait, including Breath of the Wild? Yes, and it is good that they confirmed it, as otherwise everyone would be looking at a special deluxe version of Zelda Breath of the Wild, being the only playable version on the new system. Or more precisely, confirming upscaling. A feature that Nintendo most likely will not reference until the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, especially if it brings Breath of the Wild up to 4K. We have the Gamescom 2023 codename leaks to back it up, but before we move to the obvious topic, aka Nintendo's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe equivalent in 2025, but Zelda, let's have a look at some other candidates on Nintendo's new system. It might not be this year, but Ocarina of Time. A project that would make so much sense now that we're heading towards the 15th anniversary of Ocarina of Time 3D in 2026. A game that is updated when there's new technology in play that can bring this timeless classic into a new age. Well, guess what? After 3D, upscaled 4K and Ocarina of Time's mature art style is perfect for a remake akin to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Another project that Square kept back until they had the power with the PlayStation 4. Well, the Switch 2 has, based on reports, the same power, but in handheld undocked mode. 1080p undocked, but upscaled 4K docked. Ocarina of Time first on N64, then in 3D, and finally 4K on the Nintendo Switch 2. Same goes for Majora's Mask a few years later. Add yet another Hero of Time game at the end of it for another Triforce, and Nintendo got a Hero of Time money printer for a decade to come. Since Nintendo might finally take the risk this upcoming generation and bring back a more realistic looking Zelda. Think of a Zelda with details on a level like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Anime, but with a greater sense of realism. The next 3D Zelda game could realize this potential, but taking full advantage of the new hardware and gimmicks offered by it. And nothing makes more sense than a third stab at a more visually realistic Zelda. After all, before Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, what were the 2 best-selling games? Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time. 10 years after Breath, so after 2027, the time for change will once again arrive for The Legend of Zelda. Since this franchise survives by evolving, and with far more system power, the Zelda team can finally do 2 things. Create a Zelda game that not only outshines rivals from a gameplay perspective, but also visually on nearly every level. A game that could once again define the generation and demonstrate once and for all that the visual gap to the other consoles is about to be closed. This will not be done by a new 3D Mario game, even if it's open world, but Zelda, as Breath of the Wild and Skyrim on Switch, are what brought The Witcher 3 Complete Edition and other impossible ports to the Nintendo Switch. After losing Game of the Year at the Game Awards Baldur's Gate 3, the Nintendo Zelda team is more motivated than ever to deliver a masterpiece that no one will be able to rival. Naturally, for that to be the case, time is needed. The next Open Air Zelda game is still more than 3 years away on the Nintendo Switch 2. For now, the Kyoto team deserves all the time they can get, and we need to be patient. With that said, Nintendo needs to provide remakes up until this point. And you know what 2 games could get a new subtitle with the Switch 2? Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Now, in 4K, it would definitely make them stand out from the HD versions, just like Ocarina of Time from the 3DS version. And here's the thing we need to bring up. The Zelda team and Nintendo like to skip 2 generations or 10 years between Zelda versions. We saw this with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. both originally GameCube titles which got new versions for the Wii U. Then the cycle was repeated with Skyward Sword from Wii to Switch. They are too valuable to be stuck on the Wii U, with 2.5 and 1.1 million sold copies of their HD versions. At the same time, Nintendo could pull the remaster and remake strategy with these two. A simple graphical upgrade or remaster for Wind Waker in 4K, while Twilight Princess 4K gets a proper remake overhaul and give us a taste of what to expect from the next brand new 3D Zelda when it comes to visual quality. Realizing and making the Twilight Princess or Zelda HD tech demo that was never realized even better. The true playable potential of highly detailed 3D Zelda. But naturally, a brand new game in this style is the most time consuming to deliver. Meanwhile, we have a hungry and recently promoted team in Tokyo. Grezzo with its director, who would love to deliver a proper adventure, this time where we play as Link through the entire game. Top-down needs less development time than Open Air Zelda. In other words, Nintendo could provide first a brand new Zelda from the 2D Tokyo team, while the 3D Kyoto team works on the next Open Air. Even then, top-down Zelda has far more to provide for the new system, namely two aging but solid candidates on the Nintendo Switch 2. Which begs the question, is it finally time to bring the Capcom Zelda games into the remake space? Since Oracle of Ages and Seasons are there, and the perfect fit of the Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, they are the next in the timeline after the backwards compatible title, the only dual-release Pokemon treatment in the franchise. But guess what? It worked. The Oracle game sold 4 million copies on the Game Boy Color, more than almost any new top-down 3D Zelda games. Then you have the only single-player Game Boy Advance Zelda, the Minish Cap, probably Capcom's best Zelda. Let's also not forget the game before the Oracles and Link's Awakening, A Link to the Past, another classic which was already attempted remade, which instead resulted in A Link Between Worlds, a game that is also about to be 2 generations away with the Nintendo Switch 2. Either way, what we have been able to demonstrate in a few minutes is that Nintendo has plenty of Zelda titles, both in 3D and top-down, that can be remade over the next decade. And that is without including all retro Zelda games on Nintendo Switch Online, with potentially Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks added to a DS section of the paid service. At the same time, several signs indicate that 2025 is reserved for Breath of the Wild 4K, at least when it comes to physical cartridges Zelda. But why haven't we seen it yet? Since the reveal/first look trailer was focused on the exterior of the system. As a result, there was no way for Nintendo to show this game, as Breath of the Wild is very likely the poster child for Nvidia's DLSS or Deep Learning Super Sampling on the Nintendo Switch 2. A game that was reported from Gamescom 2023 to run in upscaled 4K 60 frames per second docked to a TV. And if this is a case from a Nintendo system, then it is an absolute game changer. One that naturally Nintendo is saving for the massive Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, jumping up from 900p to 2160p. And there's a reason to believe so, as some noticed the first look trailer was not in 4K, but it didn't have to, since Nintendo is saving upscaling for the big event. And there's a good reason for it. As of the upload of this video in the second half of January, we're around 4 months away from release, and Nintendo knows it. What they showed so far is the launch title and the undocked upgrades, but far from all of them. Hence, Breath of the Wild with its open air needed to be saved or held back for when the biggest screen is demonstrated by Nintendo to be in Full HD 1080p. Not only that, confirming that this is the resolution Breath of the Wild runs natively in 60 frames per second when played in handheld or adjustable U-stand modes. In the same Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, it is likely that Nintendo will also bring the big docked mode sales argument. Upscaled 4K on our TVs, and demonstrating with the open air game that most of us define as the Nintendo Switch game. Naturally, this will be a key to the Nintendo Switch 2 experiences in April and May. The fact that you can experience the magic of DLSS firsthand with such a perfect case as Breath of the Wild. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they set up a TV next to the one you're playing to show you what a big jump it really is from 900p to 4K. But why not demonstrate 4K with open world Mario? The reason is quite simple. Nintendo is likely trying to replicate 2017. Back then, at the pre-launch Nintendo Switch, but for the most part Breath of the Wild events, Super Mario Odyssey was not playable as they were still hiding away the Cappy Capture mechanic. Instead, Mario was represented by Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now in 2025, the big star everyone will want to play is Mario Kart 9. As a result, the new 3D Super Mario will most likely not be playable, as I think it is being saved for later this year if it is coming out in 2025. Breath of the Wild 4K, however, will serve as the side-by-side graphical comparison title along with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and both could come out sometime this summer. That is worth breaking the two-system generation pattern, and besides, 8.5 years is not far away from the 10 years we're used to for Zelda remakes and remasters. In other words, if my hunch here is correct, then Breath of the Wild 4K will mark only the beginning of a long list of Zelda releases on top of all the backwards compatible Switch ones. And even then, if Breath of the Wild 4K sells, then expect Tears 4K to follow in the future. All on what is shaping up to be the best Nintendo and Zelda system to date. But what are your expectations for Zelda on the Nintendo Switch 2? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching to the end and to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to our producer JC Funk and heroes Holly Wolf, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy and Kintaro. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.